Carney seems to be really focused on Europe as a trading partner. But again, I don't know if that makes economic sense given that the billions of dollars we trade with the United States can't be that easily shifted to a European market. But the farmers in Western Canada are feeling really hard hit by the tariffs from China. So China's imposed a 100% tariff on our canola producers. Since I have a prime minister who is, as I said, going to Europe several times. Now he's going to Mexico. He's making lots of announcements, lots of spending commitments. They did promise that they were going to invest more and spend less. And when directly asked about what he was going to cut, he just gave a list to remember that during the election, Mark Carney said that he was singularly equipped to deal with Donald Trump, that the tariffs were an existential crisis. And as you said, elbows up. And again, tell me that you're not going to do a slogan by doing a slogan. And it hasn't been elbows up. We have shown, or at least he has shown, that he is willing to capitulate on things that he said he wasn't going to. I mean, the digital service tax, for example. I don't mind that they got rid of the retaliatory tariffs because I think tariffs are bad to begin with. So, certainly when the Americans got rid of their tariffs on CUSMA compliant products, it made sense for us to do the same. So I don't have a criticism about that. But I do have a criticism about the fact that we haven't resolved the aluminum and steel tariffs. We haven't resolved the auto tariffs. And so that's on the U.S. side. And, Carney's not spending a lot of time talking to Trump. He's not spending a lot of time dealing with that. He's sending delegates to do that, but I don't think the Trump administration is taking them seriously. And so we wonder whether or not we're just going to have this big trade irritant until Trump goes away. And maybe we don't want to renegotiate CUSMA while Trump's in the office, or at least until after the midterms, to see whether or not some of his power goes down so that we have more bargaining chips. Ed Carney seems to be really focused on Europe as a trading partner. But again, I don't know if that makes economic sense given that the billions of dollars we trade with the United States can't be that easily shifted to a European market. If it was easy to trade with Europe, we would have been trading with Europe. The fact remains, the border is right there. We're an integrated market. We don't have language barriers. It is very easy to trade with Americans. Though today, Carney's supposedly going to Mexico to craft a bilateral trade agreement with the Mexicans, which I think is fine because that would put pressure on America. But again, and it could be that Carney overpromised and now he runs the risk of under delivering. He said he's going to have a trade deal by July 27th. It's gone. And that's the U.S. side of things. The other thing that I think is even probably more scary, especially, and it depends on what section you're in, but the farmers in Western Canada are feeling really hard hit by the tariffs from China. So China's imposed a 100% tariff on our canola producers. And so Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe did go to China to negotiate something, but it's not for the premier of a province to be negotiating with the Chinese state. It really is something that the federal government has to do. And they've been very quiet on that front. So on our elbows up trading so far, we haven't seen very much in terms of results.
Wow, that's a long list. Maybe on the bright side, maybe I should ask you, what has this government done well so far?
I don't know because I don't have a budget. All I have is a lot of very extensive announcements. I have a prime minister who is, as I said, going to Europe several times. Now he's going to Mexico. He's making lots of announcements, lots of spending commitments. They did promise that they were going to invest more and spend less. And when directly asked about what he was going to cut, he just gave a list to the opposition leader what he was going to invest more in. So again, all these announcements have a price tag. I want to see what the bottom line is. It sounds like, from what we've been hearing, that they're expecting $100 billion price tag on the next budget in November. And that is not sustainable. Again, Carney came in with the resume saying he was a banker, he knew finance, and he was going to stop the excessive spending that had happened under the previous Liberal government of Justin Trudeau. And there's no indication that he's doing that. In fact, it looks like he's even having a higher and quicker pace of spending than the previous government. And that worries me a lot because, as we know, the more you spend, the more in debt you go. Like, he can say they're investments, but my very simple way of understanding finance is, when you're spending, that's when you're going into debt. When you're investing, you invest with your savings. You don't borrow money to invest. I was told early in my life that you do not borrow money to play the stock market. You use your savings that you can afford to lose to go into those investments, but you don't put in things that you think that you can't afford to lose. And so if you're borrowing money to gamble, essentially, that's not prudent management. And that's what worries me, because that will limit future governments, because the more in debt you go, it means your interest payments are higher, and we spend more servicing the debt than we do on social services, I believe. So those are the trade-offs, right? You can keep on borrowing money, but eventually you're going to run out of other people's money, and then you've got the problem of you've got to pay your interest payments first, and people aren't seeing a return on investment with that kind of investment.
That's a very interesting way to appraise the government, especially almost 5 months now in office. I hate to do this to you again. I've done it in the past. Would you grade them so far? You're a prof?
Yeah, so I mean, again, Carney, I do like the way he speaks, because he sort of speaks in the policy language that I can understand. And he said, again, a couple weeks ago, I don't want objectives, I want results. But the thing is, objectives are the way in which you measure your results. So my objective for him would be to find a pathway to balanced budget. So clearly we haven't seen that yet, so I'd give him a failing grade on that. If his objective was to have secure a trade deal with the US, or to get rid of these tariffs, I'd give him about a C, just because we got rid of the tariffs on CUSMA related, but we haven't dealt with the steel and aluminum and the auto sector. I'd give him a failing grade on tariffs when it came to China, because they haven't done anything about it. On housing, again, making announcements isn't the same as results, so that is incomplete. And on the big projects list, again, that would be incomplete, just because we don't have shovels in the ground. A lot of the things they announced on that list for things that were already pre-approved. So that doesn't show me that there's new things in the pipeline that are going to be quickly approved and get, people working and get those projects happen. And this is part of his own problem, because he promised a lot. So I would expect that by the end of his term, in the next, 3 to 4 years, that we better see some big results for all these promises. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult for them to win re-election.
What a report sheet that would be if that was a student taking that home to parents. You're going to have to justify the payment of tuition for such report sheet. Incomplete here and there, failure and a C. Not even a V or B plus anyway.
Oh no, we're not in B plus territory. But having said that, in terms of popularity, not everybody agrees with me. A lot of people like them still.